All right. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. As we approach the start of school, I wanted to give you a chance to start thinking about the grammar concepts we've been looking at. We have a test on verbals scheduled for next week, and I thought I would just give you a quick, probably about 10-minute review. I actually came across some really interesting tips and tricks, so be patient. Remember, you can stop and rewind. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down so you can ask them on Tuesday. All right, we're gonna run through gerunds pretty quickly because they're pretty straightforward. Okay, a gerund is a verbal, meaning it's a word formed from a verb, but it functions as a different part of speech. And remember two things about gerunds: they always end in ing, and they always act as a noun. Okay, so nouns can only hold specific jobs in a sentence, and we've studied all of those jobs. A noun, and therefore a gerund, can act as the subject of your sentence. Look at this example here. Jogging is my favorite sport. Jogging is your gerund. It's formed from the verb jog. You add ing and use it as a noun. In this case, it's the subject of the sentence. That's a gerund. Also remember that anything that also modifies the gerund creates a gerund phrase, and that too becomes a noun altogether. So a gerund can act as a subject. It can act as a direct object. I thoroughly enjoy jogging. I thoroughly enjoy what? Jogging. Jogging is your gerund. It is a DO because it answers that DO question. If you have an action verb, you ask, I enjoy what? And then the answer to that question would be your direct object. And that answer, if it's there, is always a noun. Including the gerund phrase here. I thoroughly enjoy what? Jogging 3 miles every day. Okay. Gerunds can also act as PNs, not PAs, because that would mean an adjective. The word subjective complement, by the way, we just used the word complements. We talked about PAs or PNs. That's what a subjective complement is. Don't get freaked out by that vocab word. So PNs you deal with when you have a linking verb, right? So if we have DOs with action verbs, we have PNs with linking verbs. My favorite exercise is jogging, okay? Is not an action verb, it's a linking verb. So we know we have to have either a PA or a PN. In this case, you have jogging, which is a gerund renaming exercise in the subject. So therefore, it is a subject complement or a PN. Okay? The same thing again with the phrase, acting as a PN. My favorite exercise is jogging around the block. Is your linking verb. Jogging around the block renames exercise in the subject, PN. And also, gerunds can act as as objects of the preposition. Anytime you have a preposition must have an object and that object is always a noun. Because gerunds can act as nouns, they can be the objects of prepositions. Look here. Joe takes pleasure in running. In is the preposition. Running is the noun that is functioning as the object of the preposition. And then, of course, the gerund phrase also acts as a noun. In this case, the object of the preposition in. So that's gerunds. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Participles. Participles, okay, are verbals. They are verbs that we've changed the spelling of it, change its tense, its form, and we're going to get an adjective. The great thing about participles is that they are always adjectives. The tricky thing about them is that they sometimes end in ing, just like a gerund. So how do we tell the difference? Well, it's how it's being used. So, the word auxiliary verb, by the way, if you're reading this, an auxiliary verb is nothing more than a helping verb. Okay, it's just a fancy name for helping verb. So you know that sometimes we can take an action verb and we give it a helping verb, and usually that's am, is, are, was, were, or been, or be, because it's the form of to be. Let's look at a couple of these. If we remove the helping verb, okay, and use the ing form of the main verb as an adjective, it produces a present participle. Remember, the key here is removing the helping verb. We'll look at some examples on the next slide of what happens if you don't remove the helping verb. The boiling water on the stove is hot, okay? So you can say it is boiling, it was boiling, and then boiling then describes water. Present participle describing water. And then here you have, again, the phrases can do the same thing. The water boiling on the stove is hot, okay? I think the next slide will make a little bit more sense. So past participles end in ed or en and are created the same way, okay? The form of the verb that you would usually use with a helping verb, okay? The windows were cracked by vandals. This is what I wanted you to see. This is what happens when you use these verbs with the helping verbs. Look, it's not acting as an adjective anymore. The windows were cracked by vandals. Were is your helping verb, right? And then you have a main verb that's the bulk of the verb, and it's cracked. This is not a participle. All right, not a participle. These are verb phrases. The window was broken on Thursday. Helping verb. Main verb ending in en. Helping verb was. Main verb with an irregular ending, lost. All right, so let's look at them. Let's look at some participles. When we remove that helping verb, okay, we now have a participle. The cracked windows have been fixed. Cracked modifies windows. It describes them. The broken window. Broken describes window. That lost coin. Lost describes coin. All of these are adjectives, but they were all verbs in the slide just before this. Okay? Past participles, present participles, and phrases all work the same. Okay? Past participles, phrases, the windows cracked by vandals have been fixed. The window broken on Thursday. Which window? The one broken on Thursday. Which windows? The ones cracked by vandals. Which coin? The one lost many years ago. I want you to notice one thing. The window broken on Thursday. Broken is not a verb in this sentence because here's your main verb. Have been up here is your main verb. Has never been is your main verb here, okay? So you can practice that. Now there is another trick to participles. They should always be placed near the nouns they modify. Because adjectives modify nouns, that noun has to be really, really close to it. So let's look at these. This first example here, all right, it's a pre-noun, meaning a before the noun participle phrase. Lost many years ago, that coin has never been found. What is the noun that this phrase is modifying? Coin. After the noun, it can appear. That coin, lost many years ago, okay, and then it can also be way past the noun. No one, or not way past, but after at the end of the sentence. Lost many years ago. Okay? So you've got to find the noun. And it's going to be close, guys. Close. All right? Infinitives. The wonderful thing about infinitives is that they're easy to spot because it's to plus a verb. Okay? To turn, to cut, to be, to read, to think, to swim. The tricky thing about infinitives is that they can be adjectives, adverbs, or nouns. But if you remember what we learned about gerunds as nouns, an infinitive as a noun is going to function the same way. Subject, object of the preposition, do, or pn. So let's look at some examples. All right. As an adjective, all right, an infinitive describes a noun. An adjective infinitive always follows the noun that it describes. Always. So if you look in the sentence, this is the best time to start, and you go, hey, to start, there's an infinitive. Is there a noun directly in front of it? If there is, it's probably an adjective infinitive, okay? It can also have a phrase, though. Same thing. The first attempt to build the Panama Canal ended in failure. To build is an infinitive. Here's the phrase, and it's modifying the noun directly in front of it, okay? As an adverb, okay, an infinitive or the infinitive phrase can always move around in the sentence. We've talked about that with adverbs. It's the special thing about adverbs. They can go lots of places. Remember that an adverb can modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. All right. To win, you need the highest number of points. Adverb infinitive modifying the verb need. The phrase to prepare for the storm, we nailed plywood over the store windows. This infinitive phrase modifying the verb nailed. Okay. They can also be at the end. Look, you need the highest number of points to win. And it's modifying this verb all the way over here. Now look, I found a really neat trick for identifying adverb infinitives. It's on the next slide. You can always identify an adverbial infinitive by inserting the test words in order in front of the infinitive. If it makes sense, the infinitive is adverbial, so let's test it. To win, you need the highest number of points. I think to win might be an infinitive or an adverb infinitive. Let me check. I'm going to put in order in front of it. Now I have, in order to win, you need the highest number of points. It works. That means without even going to check and see what it's modifying, I know it's an adverb. We nailed plywood to the store windows in order to prepare for the storm. It works. So if you can remember that trick, you can definitely identify adverbial infinitives. Okay? Infinitives as nouns. Nominal is just a fancy word for noun, guys. All right? It can function as the subject. To climb Mount Everest was my greatest ambition. It can act as a direct object. At one time, I attempted to climb Mount Everest. What was attempted? To climb Mount Everest. Or what did I attempt? To climb Mount Everest. It can be a, we're not gonna worry about retained objects. It's the same thing. It's going to be a PN, just like here. This subjective complement, remember that just means PN. My greatest ambition is to climb Mount Everest. Linking verb. Ambition and to climb Mount Everest are the same thing. All right, so it's 13 minutes and 30 seconds was my review. I tried to go evenly but quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I hope that you learned a couple of the tricks that we've pointed out. Feel free to watch this over and over, and if you have any questions in class, or ask in class on Tuesday. I'll see you Tuesday. Have a great remainder of the break. Oh, and here's my disclaimer. I didn't make any of these myself. I got them from Towson EDU. If you go to this website, you will find all of those pictures I just showed you, all the same examples. I broke it up instead of just giving you the link because I wanted to guide you through it, and you noticed some of the wording was different. So just be careful if you go to this, all right? Bye.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.